The telecommunication industry contributes 9.5% to the nation's gross domestic product, which translates to about 1.5 trillion naira in the second quarter of 2017. Experts believe this is below the sector's potential. If well supported and managed, it could provide additional jobs and other value addition to stimulate growth in the economy. This week's edition of the program looks at how the information and communication technologies sector can contribute to the growth of the economy. Hello there. Thank you for joining us on the program this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. In its efforts to diversify the Nigerian economy from oil-based to a knowledge-based economy, and in line with the mandates of the present administration, the Ministry of Communication is putting in place several policies, initiatives and infrastructure to make the information technology sector a key driver of the economy. Now, how much effect has those efforts had on the sector? Well, that will be in our interview. But first, what are the stories that made the headlines within the week in the nation's capital?
President Muhammadu Buhari has sacked the suspended Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Babachir Lawal, and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Mr. Ayodele Oke. The President appointed Mr. Boss Mustafa as the new SGF. He took his oath of office at this week's Federal Executive Council meeting and laid out his vision for the country.
Some of the nomenclatures are banana peels. Some of the nomenclatures are banana peels. They are banana peels. I often say it when I hear people say that executive governor. I say, go and look at the Constitution. There is nothing executive. It's the governor of a state. When you put the executive, you begin to subtly conscientializing the people to take absolute authority. So some of the appellations, some of the nomenclatures are banana peels. I would request that henceforth, just call me SGF. Our people have been pauperized for a long, long time. And it is the desire of the Buhari government to ensure that this vicious cycle of poverty, this vicious cycle that has kept the people of this country completely disoriented and dysfunctional is removed. And I believe that working with you in the next couple of months and years, we will be able to help government turn around the tide of decline that has happened in this country in the last 2 or 3 decades.
The National Executive Committee of the ruling All Progressive Congress passed a vote of confidence on the president, saying he has done well to manage the nation. The meeting, which is holding for the first time in a long while, was held behind closed doors. While addressing the committee, the president had informed members that he will soon appoint more ministers into his cabinet. He also promised to make more board appointments, a demand by his party members over the months. At the end of the meeting, the National Publicity Secretary Malami Abdullahi said that there was no motion on the adoption of President Buhari for a second term in office.
Mr. President has mentioned that the cabinet will be rejuvenated to bring fresh ideas. You can interpret that any way you want, but that was the exact statement of Mr. President, that the cabinet will be rejuvenated to bring fresh ideas. He also said that members who are unhappy that 2 years down the line they have not been appointed into positions, they assured that that will be looked into very soon. And every single person in that hall today was very happy with the appointment of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. The key motion that was moved was to pass a vote of confidence on Mr. President generally. And that motion was moved after the Minister of Agriculture, Audu Ogbe, gave a report of his sector, and everybody was happy with the progress that has been made, especially when he announced that by 2018 Nigeria will have no need to import even a grain of rice. So everybody was happy with that, and a motion was moved that we should pass the vote of confidence on Mr. President.
President Muhammadu Buhari also launched the 2018 Armed Forces Remembrance Day emblem at the Federal Executive Council. Several dignitaries witnessed the occasion, including the Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, the Speaker of the House of Representatives Honorable Yakubu Dogara, Chief Justice of Nigeria Justice Walter Onoye, the new Secretary to the Government of the Federation Mr. Boss Mustafa, and other members of the Federal Executive Council. President Buhari said the emblem launch was a worthy tradition of recognizing and appreciating the sacrifices of the veterans in the First and Second World Wars, the Nigerian Civil War, peace support operations around the world, and internal security operations, particularly the ongoing war on insurgency in the northeastern part of the country.
Distinguished veterans, ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and privilege to launch the 2018 Armed Forces Remembrance Day emblem and appeal fund. We must therefore cast our mind back at the events that led to the Civil War, the immense human capital loss of the tragic war, and resolve that never again shall we allow our dear nation, by our actions or inactions, to experience another war. I want to salute the gallantry, courage, and sacrifices of men and women of the armed forces as they grapple with diverse and contemporary security challenges plaguing the country.
President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the National Assembly asking to be granted leave to address them and present the 2018 budget proposal on Tuesday, November 7th at 2 p.m. However, shouts of no, no, no rented the air after the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, read the President's letter. There was no drama in the Senate when the letter was read by the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki. Honorable Dogara had reminded the protesting lawmakers that they do not have constitutional powers to reject the presentation of the budget proposal by the President.
Constitutional right to say no, I wish, but unfortunately we don't have that. The Constitution is very clear. The President shall cause to be prepared and lay before the end of the financial year. So it's a constitutional duty imposed on the President. And this House, as the custodian of the Constitution, we have every duty to uphold the provision of the Constitution.
The federal government on Wednesday empowered the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, to sign an agreement between Nigeria and Switzerland for the repatriation of $321 million linked to former military head of state late General Sani Abacha at the forthcoming Global Forum in the United States in December. Briefing State House correspondents at the end of the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting, Mr. Malami said the federal government's efforts to recover stolen assets had started yielding fruit, recalling the recent recovery of $185 million from the United Kingdom linked to the Malibu oil scandal.
We are in agreement substantially with Swiss for the recovery of additional sum of $321 million. That memorandum of understanding has been substantially agreed between Nigeria and Swiss. And then we intend now to execute or to sign off on the agreement during the global asset recovery during the global forum on asset recovery coming up in December.